Welcome to the Real Property Report Live. My name is Monica Jazik, and I'm the founder of Real Property Investments, where we help real people build real wealth through real estate and alternative investments. The purpose of the Real Property Report Live is to bring you a live update every Saturday, summarizing updates with COVID-19 in Ontario, Canada, and the US, and discussing these updates with our Real Property panel of experts. So each week we have new experts on, and I'm so excited this week. We have Candice Bakx. Candice, if you want to say hello. She's a Manitoba real estate agent and investor. We have Kelly Caldwell, who's in Collingwood, Ontario, and she is Real Property's life insurance specialist. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
And we have John Bauman of Calgary, all the way from Calgary. Say hi, John.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
He is our Calgary real estate. He's a Calgary real estate agent and also investor as well. So I hope everyone is doing great this morning. This is a long weekend. So we're finally, I don't know how the weather is in your parts. Here in Toronto, it's actually kind of warm and sunny. I'm getting kind of optimistic. I'm not used to this good weather lately, but I thank you for coming on, because I know we probably all want to get out and enjoy the lovely weather. And everyone who's tuning in, I guess you're not at your cottages, thank you also for coming on as well. So we'll start off by talking about some updates. I'm going to read out some statistics, some changes that have been happening in Canada and in the US. And let me start with how Canada's actually reported 1,120 new cases, as deaths have topped 5,300. So this steady increase in numbers actually is showing that the coronavirus is spreading quite quickly across Canada. Now, data provided by the Public Health Agency of Canada shows that most cases are the result of community spread, while a little less than a quarter are the result of traveling or close contact with travelers. So I guess traveling is pretty much stopped, but still people are not wearing masks, or are they not social distancing? So we still really have to focus on social distancing to slow everything down. Alberta and British Columbia both reported 62 and 16 new cases respectively, while Nova Scotia and Saskatchewan's new cases numbered in the single digits. Now the US has reported more than 21,000 new cases, and we have a little bit of good news here. Ontario has recorded the lowest number of new COVID-19 cases in our province for more than 6 weeks. And on Thursday, health officials reported 258 new cases of the disease, bringing now the total to just over 21,000. So this is the lowest number of new cases in a single day since March 29th. And all of this new record low was actually brought along the same time where Ontario is opening up or announcing the stage 1 of reopening starting on Tuesday, May 19th. So what this means to residents of Ontario is starting May 19th, retail stores outside of shopping malls with street entrances could begin reopening as long as we do our social distancing measures. Outdoor recreational activities and many individual sports competitions will get the green light starting Tuesday. Golf courses, that was huge this week. I know a lot of people are really excited about that. Golf courses, marinas, and private parks are starting to open up starting Saturday. So that's great for the long weekend. And if we have some good weather, people can actually, starting today, take advantage of some of these leisure activities, but once again in social isolation. And the first stage also involves gradual restarting, such as scheduled surgeries, along with libraries to open for pickup, And in the real estate front, allowing property management services such as cleaning, painting, and pool maintenance to resume. So it sounds like things are kind of slowly starting to happen. Now, everyone, ready for a huge round of applause. First world problems here. Housekeepers can come back. So if you're tired of cleaning your own house, technically speaking, we can call the cleaning person to come in. And cooks, I don't have one of those. I like to cook. But the cleaning lady, that was a very, very high point of the week for sure. So we are still required to limit this to inside our households and social distance. But the good news is things are slowly opening up. Now, in Ontario, this does not include restaurants, barbershops, or salons. So I shall not be blonde again for some time, possibly. And the eyebrow situation may continue, but we shall see. John, you look like your hair is rather coiffed. I don't know. This must be different because you're not in Ontario. So
well, I have nowhere to grow it but grow it back. It was either that or grow it down. So I want to see.
I think John has an in-house stylist to come
There
with
you
him.
go.
So one really sad news, and is sad for us Ontarians, is that the CNE is not opening our Canadian National Exhibition, which this has never happened. It's never been closed before, I think since World War II, I believe. So, things are still happening with COVID-19. We still don't know where we're going with this. That's the point of the Real Property Report, to bring you the information, to keep you guys, posted on these changes because they're changing day to day. But maybe with the warmer weather, some good news will continue, we hope. Now, John, Alberta has also announced its opening plan, and you're lifting restrictions, but not for the whole province, it says. So it says on Thursday, you took a step forward. You opened up businesses such as stores, daycares, and the hair salons, hence your amazing hair. And it also says here that Calgary and Brooks, which account for the majority of the active cases in the province, you're not going to reopen at the same pace. And your chief medical health officer, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, also says that just because we're reopening, it really doesn't mean you're going back to total normal. Businesses should really open only when they feel they're truly prepared, and they should follow these social distancing protocol. But it sounds like you guys are taking this very seriously. You're not in too much of a rush. You're being very compliant. Now, can you give us a better understanding of what is going on in Calgary? And because not only with COVID, you also had the oil crisis and the huge price drop. What's going on in Calgary, and really how has this impacted the real estate market?
Sure, yeah, you bet. And I'll try and be brief, but as you said, we have a three-stage approach in Alberta. And for those of you who know the Alberta geography, of course, is both Calgary and Edmonton, but Calgary's been hit particularly hard, and I'm not sure the reason for that, but we have areas such as, Brooks, High River, and Airdrie that are satellite communities to Calgary. And in particular, there's facilities like the meatpacking plants that have been hit particularly hard. But
we talked about that last week or 2 weeks of the Cargill meat. Is it the Cargill meat processing plant?
Yeah.
And that was 2,400 employees laid off, was it not?
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not sure what the status is, whether they're returned to work under modified fashion, but certainly those areas were hit the hardest. But as you said, and I was happy to see this past week, we've done a staged reopening. So we've actually opened the malls. My daughter in particular is excited about that, but it'll be a little while before we get there. The golf courses are open, and I did manage to get out and swing the clubs, and the weather is improving. So all in all, we were hit hard. After that first full month of social distancing, the month of April, the housing market's adjusting to the effects of COVID-19. So From a real estate perspective, the April sales hit 573 units. That's a decline of 63% over last year. So demand is also falling faster than supply, and this is keeping the market in the buyer's territory and weighing on prices. So sales activity eased across all price ranges, but the largest decline for homes were for homes priced over 600,000. So if you're in that lower price market, they're moving a little bit quicker. I do work, as you mentioned, I'm an investor agent myself. I buy revenue properties and hold those for long-term hold. But then I'm also searching for homes for clients. We had an eye on a place that fit the criteria. We thought, we could stall a little bit and maybe get a much greater reduced price because of everything that was going on in COVID. And that particular home actually sold first day on market. So there are active investors, buyers out there, and if things are right, they're buying. And sometimes sight unseen. We can do the video walkthroughs, and there are other ways to look at properties, but things are still moving. So I think, excuse me, losing my voice, with the improved weather and the reopening of the economy, we should start to see things heat up a little bit.
That's incredible. That's incredible that things haven't stopped. We kind of noticed that here, in Ontario, it's sort of the same thing. Everyone's like waiting for things to drop and waiting for things to happen, but people are still actively investing. And I thought that Calgary, with the oil, and a lot of people are most of the people that you work with as investors out of province investors, or are they actually in Calgary and in Alberta?
Myself in particular, it's people in Calgary, but certainly there'd be out of province money. Mm-hmm. But apologies, I can't get rid of this losing my voice. Excuse me. But we were hit hard with low oil prices, and mm-hmm. Those are that's a global impact. I think that will take a while for Calgary in particular. We're predominantly relying on the oil and gas industry, and until energy prices recover, we won't see things back in full swing. And that could take 12, 18 months for that to recover. But long-term investors are looking long-term. They're able to focus on that long-term goal and see past this COVID storm, so to speak.
Absolutely. And we are doing an event in June. I'm so excited because I think this is something we all hear from different provinces and part of the world. We're like, oh no, this is going to be a disaster. But when you have strong business models and you're from that area, you're an expert, you've lived, you breathe it your whole life, you've seen different economies thrive, and you're used to these challenges. I mean, challenges don't really need to be so much of a challenge. They can also be an adjustment as well. So, or a time of, even positivity and moving forward. So I think when you really take these challenges and put them to the forefront and figure out how to address them, that is your true value, John, is that when you have a great agent and investor who knows how to work their way through every type of economy, then that's when we can keep going. So I am so glad to hear that Calgary, Alberta, as I think it's the 4th largest province, in Canada, that a lot of the stuff we hear, guys, and this is the purpose of the Real Property Report, is we are getting real stats. All these stats are real, just like us. And they're not from Fox News or National Enquirer. When it leads, it bleeds. That's where most people get these headlines. So we're eliminating the drama. And John, I love the fact that, people can really still grow their money in places like Alberta without having to, worry about these sort of situations. I kind of wanted to clear the Calgarian and Alberta wrap a little bit here. Right. So thank you so much for that update. I appreciate that. We are going to move to Candice. And if you're just tuning in now, Candice, like I said before, is an investor and real estate agent in Manitoba, and she's a longtime friend. And I was dying to know what's happening in Manitoba, as it's one of our smaller provinces. I'll read out some stats here. So Candice, the total number of lab confirmed positive and probable positive cases in Manitoba is 289. And data also shows 3 individuals are currently hospitalized and 1's in intensive care. 3, that's not that bad.
Right.
And 28 cases and 254 individuals have recovered from COVID-19, and you've had 7 deaths from COVID-19, which is very sad, obviously. But it sounds like the numbers are relatively low compared to Ontario. It's also important to note that while some gradual lifting of restrictions have begun, public health is also advising to remain within or close to their home communities. They're telling you guys to limit travel, even with the long weekend. And they're not even permitting travel from southern Manitoba to areas including campgrounds and north of the 53rd parallel. So this is essentially anywhere north of the northern end of Lake Winnipeg. So how has, this COVID-19, it sounds like you guys are taking this very seriously and putting restrictions in place. And as a result, I'm hoping, this is the key to end this and stop the spread. So I'm very happy that you have not been impacted further. As a real estate agent and investor, how has this impacted the market in Manitoba?
Yeah, so a couple of comments on some of the facts that you were mentioning. We're trying in our province to protect the north, and so that because they don't have a lot of access to hospitals and resources, and so that's the comment related to not traveling north of the 53rd parallel. And our province has a lot of lake country, so it's common for people to go to the lake, go to the cabin.
Oh, sorry, you just muted yourself there. Oh, there you go.
No,
okay.
Okay.
Go to the lake, go to the cabin.
Yeah. So people are still going, but it's their own private cabin, right? And so I think that helps people to be able to still go out and travel a little bit, but that a lot of people have their own cabins on the lake. So that's, I guess, a little bit about that. There are people as well that end up going into Ontario, to Kenora, and those areas again for lake country. And so just wanting to, the government's really recommending that we keep numbers to under 10 for gatherings. So just to have maybe your parents join you or grandparents or just the smaller gatherings. Related to the market, I personally had a couple of slow weeks. I'm typically working 12-hour days. I'm a busy realtor, but obviously through COVID, there was a few weeks that were quieter. But overall, we have a very balanced market here, which means that even though overall our numbers are down, we had less listings and less buyers, but we didn't have this oversupply, I guess, of buyers out there, which tends to then cause the prices to go down. So it's important to always to look at not only what the overall numbers are doing, but what does that supply-demand balance look like, right? And
Absolutely.
so even throughout, we still had, at the lower price ranges, we still had competing offers the whole time, multiple offers coming in. And, we did have some people, obviously, in the beginning, it was a lot more scary and a lot more unknowns, right? So we did have a lot of people holding back. And so I know I had quite a few realtors in our office just say, I've got a handful of people who are just sort of waiting and seeing what this is going to do, right? They didn't want to list too early. They didn't necessarily want to have people coming through their house. But as our numbers have come out as so low, which, is such a blessing we're thankful for, it's really made people not so anxious about everything. Going through going through the grocery store in the beginning was stressful. You could feel the stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now people are a lot more easygoing about things and sort of accepting, okay, this is what it is. But, we're sort of seeing, again, having that opening up having people be able to see their friends again has just made the world of a difference, I've found.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to see things slowly evolving and slowly lifting. And it's also, good to hear that things still are, I know it's a bit slower, but are still
Yeah.
kind of, happening in, the market. So if you had
Yeah.
any advice to give anyone about investing or in the Manitoba market, what would that be?
Well, I think that it's just important always to look at the overall economy, and Manitoba's economy is very diversified. So even in the 2008 crash, we didn't feel it as much in Manitoba because of the fact that we are diversified. So you're not going to find the highs and the lows like in some of the bigger markets, but where the slow and steady wins the race. So if you're looking for, if you're not looking for necessarily the big gains, but if you're looking for, I want to put my money in something that feels safe and I'm going to slowly see that increase, but you're looking more for the safe feeling, I guess, and that's, I think, the benefit to investing in Manitoba. So we have, my husband and I personally, we've got about 40 doors, and we have had 0 defaults in April where people haven't been paying, and we didn't have any in May as well. So again, I've been checking with other property owners that I know, and the property manager that takes care of our properties manages about 500 doors. And I think in April he said he had 10 people maybe that he wasn't sure if he was going to be getting money for. So in Manitoba, we do have rent control, and we aren't allowed to kick anybody out now, which is common in most of the markets. So if you're going to have, maybe the lower class of tenant, or the areas that are a little bit more difficult sometimes to collect on a good day, then people are going to use that, right? That's anywhere, as the excuse of like, well, I know that they can't come get me, so I'm not going to pay my rent. But overall, we've had very low defaults from property managers that I've been speaking with, and people managing their own rentals. So I think that it's just really important to remember as well that rates are so low, and that's really helped, I think, as well, to encourage people to continue to invest and keep that big picture in mind.
Absolutely. And I think everyone, like I said, with John, investing is, in any market. And it doesn't mean you just recklessly go ahead and buy just for the sake of buying, or there might not be stellar deals. It's all about having these models, having these systems. That's what we stand for at Real Property. And to just really kind of, continue and with an eyes wide open approach and take into account different considerations. But thank you so much for giving us that update, Candice. I always love hearing about, different markets and different provinces. Now, Kelly, you're closer to us. You're in Collingwood. And so Kelly is going to talk about life insurance. She's actually Real Property's life insurance specialist, and she's in Collingwood, Ontario, which I'm sure, Kelly, are there a lot of cottagers in Collingwood today? Have you noticed?
Yeah, so unfortunately,
do we listen?
There are. Every time that there's a long weekend or a holiday, little Collingwood sees a big influx of people who are coming up to rent cottages and do whatever it is that they're doing up here. So it's a bit unfortunate, but I guess that's the reality of living in a tourist community.
Are they doing social distancing? Does it look like? Are they up with their masks, all walking like 6 feet apart at least?
It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Like some people are. I think the locals is a general rule of thumb, and this isn't specific to COVID. This is any time of the year. The locals are very used to doing their shopping not on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, because there's just always an influx of tourists. So they get it done during the week, and then the tourists flood those places during the weekends. So when I'm out shopping during the week, if I have to go, there's definitely people taking precautions with masks and gloves and sanitizers and that sort of thing. But as far as the weekends are concerned, I can't really speak to it because I don't go out.
I can't blame you. People should be, we're home. I think most people should probably stay home because, like we said earlier, the main way to curb this really is by, if it's transmitting in our communities, we should really kind of practice the isolation and show these practices to stop the spread. Now, as an insurance specialist, Kelly, has this pandemic been a shock to the insurance industry, or have they been prepared? Is there some like pandemic clause or?
So the industry as a whole, I mean, I'm contracted with nearly 30 different agencies that I can do insurance through. So, I mean, it's different from place to place. Some companies do instant issue. So for them, if they're already working with high risk individuals and they're ready to do instant issue, it wasn't really a big deal. They just carried on doing what they were doing. But for companies who did things like doing medical examinations on individuals to pre-qualify them for their insurance, there have been some changes. I don't know if it was necessarily a shock just to the insurance industry. I think it was a bit of a shock to everybody. But just like every other industry, we've adapted and we've made changes necessary so that we can continue to do business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, like, so has there been like, does life insurance cover coronavirus?
Well, sure. Yeah. So if you've already got a life insurance policy that's in place, and if you, heaven forbid, die from coronavirus, unless there was something that was in your policy that specifically excluded coronavirus, which there wouldn't have been because up until this point, COVID-19 wasn't really a thing. Of course, it's going to cover it.
Right.
I don't know what it's going to look like going forward. I haven't seen any specific clauses yet that exclude COVID-19. And again, I haven't done a policy for somebody who's been affected by COVID-19. So I don't know if they were infected with the virus, if they went and then tried to take out a policy, if there might be some clause. Sure, it's always possible. But up until this point, no, it's not come across.
Right. And the reason I ask is because insurance, like obviously, is you have to have insurance. To us, I think you've done seminars on life insurance, critical illness insurance, disability insurance. It's all important things that people have. But the problem with insurance, it's the one thing you pay for and you hope you don't have to use it. Because, and you have to admit, Kelly, and I know I've had this with you a long time, this qualm I have about insurance companies, which is basically, it's great, they'll take your money, but when it goes for the payout, then it might be like COVID-19, sorry, this is an act of God. So, or we didn't have this specific, virus listed here, so you're not getting any sort of, coverage type thing. So I know as doing business with you that you definitely make sure people are covered, in regards to these sort of things, because unknown illnesses can come, out of nowhere. So
yeah, the only time that we really saw any type of specification as to they were making it known that they wouldn't cover you if you were infected by COVID-19 was right before all the travel bans happened. So when this began to happen early March and people were making arrangements to go away for March break and that type of thing, that's when there was a big announcements being made all over the place by people who offered travel insurance that if you did choose to go away during this time and you were affected by COVID-19, your travel insurance was not going to cover you. But that's on the travel insurance side. In terms of life insurance, that hasn't really come up yet.
Well, what about critical illness insurance? If someone got sick with COVID-19 and they have a critical illness insurance policy, would this be covered under it?
Well, as of right now, and this is something that I show at my presentations, right? So you can have, your top 10 illnesses, or you can have enhanced coverage that covers your top 25. And so COVID-19 hasn't been an exclusion of one of those things. So again, as of right now, it's not been added to any type of list. It's, I can't speculate as to what's going to happen in the future, but as of right now, it's not been.
So in that like top 25 type thing with the enhanced coverage, what would COVID-19 fall under? Because it can't be COVID-19 because it's new. So what would they have like listed it as, like unknown anomaly?
It wouldn't.
Sorry?
It wouldn't really, right? So under that top 25, you have things like cancer, because we're talking about critical illness, right?
Yeah.
And so again, just speaking from a medical perspective, we don't know what the long-term effects are of COVID-19. So whether or not that's going to be put onto a critical illness list or not, I can't speculate.
So unless it's on this critical illness list, it doesn't count, and there was no way for it to be on the list because it didn't exist until
Yeah, so
like
when
3 months ago.
when you take out critical illness insurance, it is listed what it is that you are taking out critical illness insurance for.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
What about disability insurance? I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs or self-employed people, they have disability. Are they just being covered with all the government payouts, the CERB, the small business sort of grants more or less? Or have you heard of anyone, you know, claiming in a disability insurance policy for COVID-19?
I haven't yet. Again, we're so early into it. So it's a virus, right? So I don't know. And again, it's individual, right? Everybody's got their own individual disability policies. There are medical exams that happen in the background. Everybody's got their own individual clauses that happen. So I can't speak in general terms as to what would happen because it's so specific to that individual. But right now, no.
Yeah, I know these questions are so broad and a bit almost random, like, but we've never experienced this before. And so I'm just wondering, we had actually Alex Bell, who does the property insurance, and, you know, talking about pandemic insurance for that. Wimbledon had a pandemic insurance policy, and they actually, I think, it cashed in at $12 million or something. So it's amazing, you know, how all these industries, something that we never even considered happening is happening, and how it's changing. It's truly fascinating. Kelly, I think it makes topics like insurance actually interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
and accounting.
The big thing that we've seen in terms of the difference is we're not actually meeting clients face-to-face in the same space anymore. So a lot of our meetings are done by this platform. We're doing Zoom calls or something like that. And then in terms of medical, if they need any type of paramedical examinations done, what's happening is that the insurance companies are waiting. So they're insuring that individual for up to a certain amount of money, say $100,000. And if they applied for, say, a $250,000 policy, once all the COVID restrictions have been lifted, they have up to 1 year to get that medical examination done to qualify for the full amount that they're wanting to apply for.
Ah, interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
One last question about the life insurance. This is totally different, actually. For people that were actually using life insurance, you know, as a cash, like that has a cash component to it. Have you noticed anyone, now that a lot of people are out of jobs and need access to income, cashing in on these insurance policies so they can access this income?
So you're referring to like a universal life policy?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So again, you and I have spoken extensively about this. But for anybody who hasn't heard the conversation, I'm not a big advocate of universal life insurance. Universal life insurance is for high net worth individuals who are looking to tax shelter money. So people who've already maxed out their RRSPs, people who've already maxed out their TFSAs. So if the assessment has been done properly for somebody who's been put into a universal life product, that should really be the last thing that they're thinking about, because they should be able to be taking their monthly amounts that they're putting into their RSPs or monthly amounts they're putting into their TFSAs and putting a hold on that first before they go and cancel an entire investment vehicle. This is a temporary situation. We hope it's not going to go on for a really long time, but there are other avenues. There are some, big consequences for canceling something like a universal life policy.
There is, and that's the problem with people who are not the high net worth people doing it for these tax purposes, investing in it. And Kelly, when we started working together too, because we have a full turnkey roster of experts in every single field at real property, and Kelly is our life insurance specialist. And the one not the interview question, I guess you could say, is like, Kelly, how do you feel about term versus universal? Because a lot of life insurance specialists out there, guys, they will get more perks for themselves to promote people to get on to universal, and it's not necessary, and it's not definitely the best vehicle to build wealth. And I appreciate your honesty and your candor in that, Kelly, because, you know, you put your clients before you put yourself, and people who are in a situation where it's quite more expensive to invest in the universal than in the term insurance. And those people who are now feeling this pinch, and, you know, they're out of work, that is a huge expense for them. And they might be the ones that are like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to cash in on this policy because I need this money. It's a lot of more of a short-term kind of thinking. So, you know, I thank you actually for saying that and pointing that out, that, you know, for average people, most people, term insurance is more than adequate. Insurance is something we hopefully never have to use. It shouldn't be something that you're going to use to get back one day. We don't want to get our insurance back, anyone. We want it just to go away and be a nice little safety net. So I thank you for answering those questions, Kelly.
Thank you.
And I thank all of our experts for coming on today. That was great insight. And I thank everyone else for tuning in to the Real Property Report. All of our Real Property Reports are on our YouTube channel, so make sure to check it out. And we hope everyone has actually good weather and enjoys the long weekend somewhat. And I hope everyone tunes in next Saturday or at one of our upcoming events. We have a lot of stuff going on at Real Property Investments, so I'd encourage all of you to visit our website at rpinvestments.ca and check out our events that are going on. Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your long weekend. Bye.
Thank you.